Join me today for a day of homemaking and mothering. I pray this video blesses and encourages you as we dive into the topic of the beauty and responsibility of Christian mothering. I will also be sharing with y'all a closer look into my motherhood binder, so be sure to stay tuned for that portion of the video. When I first became a mother, I remember feeling so overwhelmed by the amount of myself that I had to give to my new baby. Don't get me wrong, I was so excited to finally become a mother, but my selfish tendencies did not die quickly. The enemy was constantly reminding me that I now had to give so much of myself, putting me into a victim mindset. I remember mourning the loss of the ability to sleep whenever I wanted. I mourned my changed body that I'd worked so hard to vainly perfect and spent hours in the gym over. I mourned the time with my husband alone, going and doing what we wanted whenever we wanted. At that time, I could not see that motherhood was exactly what I needed until well long after I had my second child, and I was able to look back over the last year and a half in hindsight. Children gave me the ability to learn to love someone else more than I did myself. Now, I did love my husband, of course, but I had yet to ever put his every need ahead of my own, as it was necessary to do with my children. I did not learn that until I had children, actually 2 children. Children are a gift and a blessing from the Lord, and they will teach us more than we will ever realize. When I think about the unfailing, forgiving love of Jesus, I often think of my 4 children and the pure, deep love they give to me, no matter what kind of day I'm having. If I have fussed at them, if I have given them enough attention, the love that they show is so strong. And Jesus' love far surpasses that love of a child. So now that we have these children and we learn to love them and put them ahead of ourselves, how can we as Christian mothers raise them up prepared for a very sinful world? There is a verse in Psalms that I always love. It's chapter 127, verse 4, and it's talking about children being arrows born in one's youth. The actual verse is, like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children born in one's youth. This verse represents that children are a source of strength and power for the Lord, comparing them to arrows. When they are raised and trained in a Christian home, this means we have more warriors and sources of strength and power to send out the love of Jesus into this sinful world. This verse also goes on to say, blessed is a man with a quiver full of arrows, talking about the blessing of a full and large family, which we love having a larger family. We only have 4 children right now, but we will love the abundance of arrows that the Lord blesses us with. But today, let's talk about equipping these children to go out into the world to do good work for our God, kingdom work. There are so many things our children are going to need to know as they leave our home and go into the world. Some of these things we will be able to teach them ourselves, but some of them we will probably have to source help from a surrounding village. For example, one of my children has taken a very strong interest in drawing and painting. I always encourage my children to find their own interest and try not to force those upon my children, not to force my own interest upon my children. So my child that has taken a strong interest in painting and drawing, neither of these things I have really much talent at. I've let them run with this interest, but also offered them some outsourced help that's not for me. There's absolutely nothing wrong with sourcing higher qualified people to join our village in teaching our children, but there are some things that we as mothers cannot delegate to others. And that is raising them up as godly humans that love and follow our Lord. We cannot pawn that job off onto our church, our pastor, their Sunday school teachers, or other family members. This even goes to our husbands. Yes, our husbands have a biblical role as the leader in our home, but as Proverbs 1:8 specifically states, listen to your father's instruction and don't neglect your mother's teaching. There are several other verses in Proverbs that speak directly to the role of the mother teaching in the home and how impactful that is for our children. We can be wonderful mothers and love our children with our entire hearts, but being a Christian mother means leading our children by letting our own personal walk with the Lord, sharing and knowing the love of Jesus everywhere we go. So while we're on the topic of mothering in the way God designed, let's talk about kind of how I keep all of that straight and organized. This is my mom binder. I talked about this a couple of videos back. A video talked about convictions. I shared like the Bible verse that was on this, and I had some questions on would I share what this is or how I use this. So this is nothing fancy. This is nothing I'm selling. This is something I just put together for myself. There are lots of accounts I've seen of women who put together these little templates on mom binders, mom planners, and I looked at a lot of those, but when I would flip through them and see if it's something I actually needed, there was a lot of unnecessary things that I did not need. So I strictly put this together with my own needs in mind, and I think that's the best way to make something work for you. It's so unique. We all need something that fits just us. So maybe something I share here today will help you create something like this on your own. So all this is, it's just home management and motherhood, just kind of my day-to-day agenda, kind of how I guess you could call it a planner, but it's not really a planner. It's not that detailed. I'm telling you all this is really basic. Right here, I just have our family loop schedule for homeschool. This is just how I kind of monitor homeschooling. Our homeschooling is still pretty minimal. My children are 5 and under. First, we have home management. So this is the main reason I created this, is because I wanted a quick resource to know what I needed to do that day to stay on task. And I broke this down into things I do daily, things I do weekly, every day of the week, and then things I want to do monthly. I sometimes mark these off, sometimes I don't. I sometimes just do a quick glance and see, okay, it's Monday, I need to thaw meat for the week, declutter one area, clean up the garage, and wash the couch blankets. That just kind of reminds me that's what I do on Mondays. These are just really basic things that work for my family and my home. Things I have daily are at least 1 load of laundry, dishes after the meals, put away dry dishes, sweep the floors, keep toys tidied, make beds, tidy mine and my husband's closet, tidy shoes in the garage. Some of these things I even have my children help me with. So this is just a quick like reference. Now I have where I can mark these off, but I don't actually usually mark these off. I did make all of this in Canva, by the way. Canva is a free website where I make like my thumbnails for YouTube videos. I make any kind of template. I've made like checklists for my children. I've made scavenger hunts for my children. It's a free website. It has lots of good designs and stuff you can work with, but this was all made in Canva for free. I do not have the paid version. So again, daily, weekly, things I do every day of the week. So Tuesdays, I wash all the sheets. I focus on the upstairs. So I have dust upstairs, vacuum upstairs. So this is all personalized to what works for me over now a 3-year span of being a full-time homemaker, what works for me best, because I've tried copying and mimicking other ladies' routines who are full-time homemakers, and it's never stuck. I've really had to get into my own routine and my own rhythm, and that's why I always encourage mamas, if they are new to homemaking and new to being a stay-at-home mama, don't just try to copy something I'm doing or something somebody else on social media is doing. Work with it for a little while, figure out what routines and rhythms work best for you, and that's what this whole binder is an accumulation of. Then I have monthly. This is like clean out our van, wipe windows, which needs to probably get done more than monthly, but at least once a month. Wipe door frames and knobs, reorganize the pantry, wipe the light fixtures. There's those big jobs that kind of slip your brain if you aren't doing them often, which I don't. I'm not the best at deep cleaning, so this is just a quick reminder of things I can do monthly. Keep the deep cleaning manageable. This is our family calendar, and these are just free calendars I print. I just search January 2025 calendar, and then you can usually click like the next link and it'll give you February. And this is just things that I need to keep up with for our family. I try to keep I know that you can put all this in your phone, and I've done that before. I've had things in the calendar on my phone, but then I forget to look at it, or I put things in lists and notes in my phone, but then I've realized I want to be on my phone as little as possible in the day, so I want as little things as possible stored in my phone. So I just have an old school calendar. Just print these off and write things that is going on for our family. Things like if we're going somewhere around the holidays, I'll put things where we're traveling. And I have my work calendar. It's the exact same setup as the family calendar, just it's a way to keep organized when I'm posting videos, if I have any collaboration agreements, when those are going live, just pretty straightforward. These are just basic calendars. And then I have personal. This is where I keep up with my cycles. I downloaded a while back these free I think it's body basics, like charts where you can just track your monthly cycle. Again, you can track all of this on apps on your phone, but I want as little things on my phone as possible, so I just do it the old school way. At the end, I have notes. Now, first up, this is actually something pretty new. I saw a lady talking about this a dopamine menu where if you have a little bit of free time, instead of grabbing your phone, which I've actually gotten really good at not grabbing my phone, I actually deleted all social media apps off my phone, so that's not really a habit anymore. But sometimes I have some free time and I'm thinking, what can I do? And I typically find that I'll just find some kind of work around the house to do, but that's not filling my cup. I mean, in a way it is, because I'm serving my home, but these are just some enjoyable things that I can quickly reference to do if I have a little downtime. And this is something I'm actually working on, is making time for me to enjoy hobbies that I enjoy instead of always working around the home and serving the home, which I love doing as well. It's such a blessing coming out of a career life to now being full-time at home, to be able to serve my home and have all of this nicely organized together. But there are times that we as mamas need to fill our own cups. So I have things that would take 5 to 10 minutes, things that would take 15 plus minutes. I have things like make a fun tea or coffee, go sit on the porch and just look outside at nature, walk in the grass, read a book, pray, practice the piano. Those are things that are like really quick things. And then I have things that would take 15 or more minutes. So that's things like go on a walk, either by myself or with my children, learn a new hymn. We learned a lot of hymns in our homeschooling time. So I always am trying to remember old hymns and learn them so I can learn them with my children. Prep some dough. It's always a good idea to prep dough. And I actually really enjoy prepping breads and donuts and pastries and stuff for my family. So just prepping dough and even just leaving it in the fridge is a great thing to do just in a little downtime. A Bible study, declutter an area, make a fun snack, bake a dessert, work on my cross stitching. This is just a quick reference. If I, and again, like as I look at this more, I'll start to store these things into my brain, like I do my homemaking tasks. And just when I have some downtime, instead of automatically working on cleaning something or doing something around the home, doing something to fill my own cup. That's not scrolling my phone, which again, I talked about that in a couple of videos back, convictions and deleting all social media apps off my phone. So that has helped a lot in the temptation for that dopamine scroll. Okay, and in this last section, that's, I just have a little divider here. Then I just have a really old spiral notebook. This is where I'm at every day in this binder. This is just how I do like a brain dump every day. So you saw I have like my tasks at the front for how I, like what I'm gonna do for that day. But I also a lot of times have other things that are just random throughout the day. So I'll just make little to-do lists. I usually categorize it on the left side. This things are on the home. So this may be things like, I had on here, mix up bread dough, mix donuts, clean out the van, water the seeds in the basement. And then on the right side, I typically put my working tasks, which are pretty much the same every day. Work on editing, work on filming, work on a voiceover, write a voiceover, check emails. That is the bulk of like my list. Now, I forgot to mention, I used to do all of this in just like a notebook, but my toddler is notorious for finding a notebook and drawing on every page just for fun. And I love it. And I have notebooks that I save just for that. But she would inevitably, if I just had a spiral notebook laying around on my desk or in the kitchen somewhere for a quick reference, she would inevitably find it and write on every single page. So now that it's in this like nice organized binder, I can file it away or put it on a section. And she doesn't gravitate towards this like she would just a little pen and paper and a notepad. So that is my motherhood homemaking binder. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I've been using this for about 6 months now. I forgot to mention I have some Bible verses throughout just to kind of motivate me. On the front Bible verse, I have Proverbs 31:27. She looks well to the ways of her home and does not eat the bread of idleness. And then this is the verse I mentioned in that conviction video, the Colossians 3:23. And whatever you do, do it wholeheartedly as to the Lord and not to men, at the top of this one. So just scattering little scriptures throughout always is a great thing for working your home, using your home as a ministry to serve the Lord. So I hope you enjoyed seeing a glimpse into my motherhood and homemaking binder. Pretty simple, pretty basic, but it works for me and it keeps me organized. It keeps things from floating around my brain and allows me to put it all on paper in one convenient place so that I'm not having things toggled on my brain. And when I want to focus on my children and loving them, training them up for the Lord, I'm not having all of my homemaking tasks floating around in my head because I have them all right here and I can go refer to them when I need. I think that's one of the biggest challenges in homemaking is keeping mental space for the things you want to do. Because when you have it all just floating around and you don't have it written out or in a concise place, your brain gets really bogged down and you feel really overwhelmed. But this has helped that overwhelming feeling go away so much. So I encourage you, if you want to put something like this together, it has been so helpful for me personally. And I'm sure this will expand and change as we get more into homeschooling. I may even have something like this specifically for homeschooling. I know some women keep like their budget and their grocery list, and there's all kinds of things you can put in here. There's so many women that offer templates that could go in a binder like this. But again, I just found I didn't need those things. What I showed you was the bare minimum of what I needed. And if I have extra, I find that adds to the mental clutter. I'm thinking, oh, I have to write something on this page, but I don't really need that page. So it's just like a mental block for me. So this is my motherhood homemaking binder, home management. Hope you enjoyed seeing it. And my baby is so loud in the background. Let's get back to our Christian mothering chat. So there's a verse in 2 Timothy 1:7 that I've actually taught my children. It was one of the first Bible verses we learned. For the Spirit of God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-discipline. I always use it with my children when we're talking about being fearful. Sometimes children have fears, and we always talk about that verse. But I never realized the prerequisite to that verse has a really powerful statement about women. So it says in 2 Timothy chapter 1, starting in verse 3, I thank God whom I serve as my ancestors did. Recalling your tears, I long to see you so that I may be filled with joy. I am reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you also. So this just is so powerful. This is a couple of verses before that verse about not having a spirit of fear, but it's reminding us about all the women that come in our lives before us that influenced our faith, that influenced our walk with the Lord. This just shows the importance of the prayers and the faith of the women that come before us in our lives, and how we as mothers, our faith is so impactful for our children. When I was pregnant with my first son, my husband and I had an encounter with someone, and he asked us what our ultimate goal for our unborn child was. This question was asked to my husband, so I let him answer it. He kind of stumbled at first, but he went on to say he wanted to teach him to be a good human, to kind to others, and to excel at things and be well-rounded at things he set his mind to. The wise man who was speaking us then said, well, that's all great, but you need to ultimately make sure your child knows and loves and follows Jesus, and you raised him to be a follower of Christ. Wow, what an eye-opener this was for us. I had initially thought about bringing my child to the Lord and showing him a sincere faith, but the question was directed to my husband, so I didn't give my answer to that. But we have never forgotten these wise words that were poured into us before we even had our first child. So this does not mean that we force anything onto our children, but rather lead them by personal example and push them towards that sincere walk in faith, not just following rules and doctrines of said religion that we might follow. Our children should see our own personal relationships with God on a daily basis so they know how to have one with Him themselves. A sincere walk with Jesus puts Him ahead of everything, and that is crucial that we model this to our children as their mother. We can do everything right as mother, cooking the best from scratch meals, giving them the best education, pouring quality time into them, but we cannot give our children faith. We can model that, but we cannot give it to them. They do have to come to this on their own in their own time. Mamas, do not underestimate the influence you have on your child's life. It's the biggest influence they will ever have. A mother's teaching is so influential. I don't even think we can really fathom how much influence we have on our children. Our job is to model and show them a strong and sincere faith as Lois and Eunice did in that verse back in 2 Timothy. When they see the Lord as our number one priority every day, there is nothing our children cannot face in this sinful world.